Hello to you, my lovely listener. I'm Jason Paul, and you're here in the Soul Sync, in the place where we discuss everything from personal growth, dark nights of the soul, mediumship, the trials and tribulations of life, energy, consciousness. The list is endless. Now, today, I'm talking to a guest who really pulled on some of my heartstrings because we shared a lot of common threads in our backgrounds. So I'm talking to Robin H. Clare. She is a spiritual messenger. She's the author of 5 books. She worked for 25 years in corporate America prior to her spiritual awakening. But she's also 8 years in recovery from what's been a 40-year battle with bulimia and disordered eating. Now, she's written some very interesting books, including The Messiah Within, which was written at the request of Jesus, and The Divine Keys, which is the 18 keys to a divinely guided life. All of her books have been channeled, so we discuss that in this episode. And some of the things that we talked about was very, very interesting. We talked about ultimately that there is only one addiction, and that addiction is to suffering. Everything else, whatever it might be, food, alcohol, relationships, substances, those are all secondary addictions. And I can relate to that because, a lot of the times when I've struggled with addiction, what I've actually been addicted to is just continuing to make myself suffer, as crazy as that might sound to some people. So we also talk about pain is inevitable. Robin was so candid in how she told her story, and it was really interesting to hear her talk about when one day she just got to the point where she knew that she couldn't choose to suffer anymore, because she explained that pain in our lives sometimes really is inevitable, but suffering is an option, and sometimes we can choose to suffer. And she talks about how she surrendered, and surrendering is what is required for grace to be allowed. So we also talked about manifesting as well, and why it isn't wishful thinking, it's knowing what truly matters and actually creating capacity for it. So it's an interesting conversation. You're going to enjoy it. It's my conversation with Robin Clare. So, Robin, welcome. It's lovely to have you on the Soul Sync.
Thank you so much, Jason. I've been looking forward to being on your podcast.
Oh, well, it's lovely to have you on. There's lots of things. We were just discussing this before we even hit the record button. Many strings to your bow, Robin. And we'll come on to what you do sort of spiritually in a moment, because you do lots of different aspects and you've just explained that. But walk us into how you've even got into this world in the first place, and, touch on who you are as well. We want to know about your story here, Robin.
Okay, great. So I was a normal person first.
Oh, so was I. I say.
Yes, I worked in corporate America for 25 years. I am still a mom and a wife and a daughter and all the things. And oh gosh, maybe around a little over 20 years ago, I really felt a calling to some gifts that I had since I was a child. And so what I did is I stood out on my deck for almost a year and I asked the same question: how can I be of greater service to mankind? And then there was a being of light that was standing there with me, and I didn't know who it was. And honestly, I was scared. So I didn't inquire who was standing on the deck with me. I just let this being of light stand with me. And then what I realized is that what I was doing was truly going to go on this very fast spiritual fast track. Like I was saying, I'll do it like every night. And so what happened was I started looking at what needed to be healed in my life. What was the trauma that was making me suffer in my life? And how was I going to heal that? And so I started working on that. I went to India. I studied with spiritual masters. I did all types of things. And then I thought that I was taking my business background with me. So I opened 3 retreat centers because I thought, oh, I'm just supposed to be the person in the back, selling tickets. But that's not what Spirit had in mind for me. They wanted me to start teaching myself and to start writing books. So I've written 5 books. The first one was at the request of Yeshua, who most people call Jesus, and it was called Messiah Within, A Guide to Embracing Your Inner Divinity. And basically, he was saying that when he said the kingdom of God resides within, he really meant it. And that we are each the Messiah of our own lives. And so I wrote that book. I was very afraid. I wasn't a writer. I wasn't, a Christian. I wasn't all the things, right? And so I wrote it. And then about a year later, he came back in a meditation. He said, I really don't think you're living the teachings. What are you going to do about it? And so I started digging through my whole life again, like turning up all the rocks. Why wasn't I living the teachings? And that led me to my second book called The Divine Keys, which is 18 Keys to Living a Divinely Guided Life. So I did that and everything was good. And then all of a sudden I was in a meditation and Sophia came to me. And Sophia is in Christianity, she's considered the Holy Spirit. In Judaism, she's the Shekhinah. But she really is the divine feminine. She is the equal to God. And we could talk about why she's not known as that. I can just say that religion chose to remove the power of the divine feminine from the religious text so that people wouldn't become enlightened and then therefore they could control them. So that's my way of looking at it. So that's who she is. And she said to me, I want you to write a book about addiction and recovery. And I said, okay, but I'm not in recovery. I had been in having eating disorders, bulimia, and obsessive eating at that time, maybe for like 30 years when I wrote, she's like, just write the book. So I wrote the book. And at the end, I was like, okay, everybody, I hope this works for you. It didn't work for me. But then I knew I couldn't publish it. But then I came into addiction recovery and I was able to publish it. But Sophia's main point of asking me to write that book was to say that there is only one addiction on the planet, and that's to suffering. And then we pick our secondary addictions like food, alcohol, porn, cigarettes, bad relationships, bad jobs, in order to feel better from the suffering that we are carrying that came from past life and current life trauma. And so I found that book was so healing for me eventually. And so I wrote that book. And then my 4th book was every New Year's, I ask the divine, what do you want me to do this year? Figure what the heck, let them help me with my New Year's resolution, right? As a divine messenger. And they said, surrender your story. And I said, which one? And they said, all of them. And so that was the beginning of a book called Surrender Your Story. I'm the lead author of an anthology of wonderful people who surrendered their trauma stories so that they could live their lives. And then my last book, the one that I originally wanted to chat with you about, was called Harmony, The Frequency of True Success. And what I realized in all of that, living my healing journey and writing my books, what I was doing was moving myself to be able to live a life of harmony, which I define as when my healed inner world, because I've done a lot of work on that trauma, I'm in recovery 8 years now, when my healed inner world is in alignment with my outer purpose. And here's my purpose talking about all of this. So my spiritual journey is what I speak about, and how and hoping that my journey is an inspiration for others. And also knowing that the divine was asking for me to write that information so that folks could read it and study it and listen to it.
Do you know what? I could ask so many questions about so many different aspects of your experience. What made you start asking this question at the end of the garden in the first place?
On the deck? Yeah. I knew that I had started
because it's a strange thing to do, isn't it? To be just saying, what do I need to do?
Oh, what do you want? How can I help? Right?
Yes.
How can I help? And I think it was because I started studying all type. I love past lives. That's one of my favorite things. And I studied that. And then I started studying different philosophies. And I'm like, I could do more. I can help. And I really thought at first it was about business. It was about helping spiritual teachers and healers become more successful in business. But my problem was I wasn't successful in that business myself, so I couldn't really help them because I was still in addiction. I felt almost like a fraud half the time. Like, who am I to give messages to other people about living a better life when I'm obsessing in my head all day long about what am I going to eat? And then if I do eat it and it's not good for me, that I can abuse my body by throwing up. So those things that were going on in my head were like stopping me from really embracing my work. But now that I'm in recovery, I don't have those tapes playing in my head anymore. It's just a matter of where do you want me to be? So I feel like I'm laughing now to myself, Jason, because maybe I'm finally doing exactly what I asked without myself getting in the way. Right?
It's interesting what you say, because I can understand that about the tapes we play in our mind, because when I think back to my own journey, and I would feel like an imposter a lot of the time, in my days of my business career where I'd be struggling, drinking too much wine or whatever it might be, starting to go down addictive patterns. And then you would feel like an imposter. So you would never be, in your full power, because even on the times that you weren't doing it, you'd be thinking about it in some way that's taking you out of being in the full power.
That's the obsessive compulsiveness of it, right? And if you don't know that you're doing this as a secondary addiction to your primary addiction, which is your suffering, right? We're addicted to feeling bad, right? We're addicted to not understanding why did they do that to me? What was going on with me? And so one of the things, when I started looking at my trauma patterns, most of my trauma patterns involved humiliation. And when I realized that, I started thinking about, was I overeating and then throwing up? Because every time I would throw up, I would look in the mirror and I would roll my eyes at myself. And I would be like, am I self-humiliating myself so nobody else does? Isn't that interesting? And so what I realized is that maybe that is why I continue to do this, because I couldn't believe I couldn't get a hold of it no matter what. In 40 years, I was trying to control this. And the simplest answer came to me, and that is that no one can humiliate me, including myself, unless I give them the title of judge. If I don't give them that title, they're just giving me their opinion, and I can say thank you or F you, right? Whatever it is I want to say back, right? I can react however I want. But if I don't give them the title of judge, they're just other people are just talking to me, or I'm just trying to undermine myself. But then I'm able to pause and think, what am I truly hungry for? What do I
It's
truly
even interesting, the fact that there's something to the fact you're using the judge, because it's where are you placing your power, and sometimes we're our own judge, we're our own prosecutor, and we're our defense. We're having an internal nightmare, and we're arguing all cases, and then we're sending ourselves in the shackles, Robin.
That's right.
Yes.
It is so true, but we don't have to, right? We don't have to, because judgment and shame are just very much a part of the human experience. But we have to be able to say, not really mine, not my experience, because also what we need to remember too, Jason, is that when most people are judging you, they're really judging themselves.
They are, yes. And we get so bogged down along the way in what people think of us. But we never know what anyone truly really thinks about anything. That's the human experience. We don't know what's going on in someone else's mind, but we spend so much of our time worrying about it, don't we?
Yeah, don't you? And it's like when you're worried, you have to have a pretty serious conversation with someone, and you're like, must have like 20 versions of it in your head going on at once. What am I going to say? What are they going to say? What am I going to say? And then you get to the actual conversation. It is nowhere near as difficult as all of the conversations that you had in your head leading up to it. Because because if you really say to someone, I need to have a conversation with you, and I am not intending to hurt your feelings, but this is what I need to share with you. This is what I'm seeing from my perspective. And they're like, okay, what is it? Right? They may still get their feelings hurt, but if you say to them, I am not doing this to hurt your feelings. And it's how we're communicating, I believe, that starts us down the path of feeling judged and shamed.
I think even when you say suffering is the human condition, I think every single person does it to themselves to some degree in their life, but we then project a false reality that we then look at other people and we think, oh, it's just me that's feeling this way. Or at times we then project. Yes, and we then project what we perceive to be the reality of the world, and we can look at the world through hundreds of different lenses at any given time in our life. Sometimes you walk out of bed in the morning and it's raining, and that's an amazing thing, and sometimes isn't that funny?
Yeah, so in this path of being a spiritual messenger for the ascended masters, writing books for them, I've learned some very, very interesting things. Another thing that I learned, which I found very profound, is that Yeshua shared that everyone on the planet has a broken heart. It's either been shattered or it's just broken. And then we learn to love other people by giving pieces of our heart away. And you can even remember saying that, I gave her my heart. I gave him my heart, and he was saying in Messiah Within, in order to truly be the Messiah of your own life, you must get all those pieces of those hearts and return them and make your heart whole. And then love from there, because my clients have often said to me, well, if I get those heart pieces back, am I not loving that person anymore? And I remind them that when they get those pieces of the heart back through any kind of meditation ceremony, whatever they want to do, sew them back in, then they can love that person from a whole heart instead of just from the piece they gave them.
Isn't it even funny that, what was going through my mind when you was explaining about pieces of the heart? Obviously, the heart is just an organ. That's just an organ, just very belittling of one's heart, isn't it? But it's an organ. What even is love? That what bonds us, what makes us, that is everything, isn't it? That's the whole universe.
It is everything.
But when you're giving someone your love, and that heartbreak happens, isn't that in a way a form of attachment,
It is. It is. And it what I discovered in doing all of this Heart's Temple work is what I call it, Heart's Temple ceremony, is that you can go out to get pieces of the heart back and bring them back to you, but the person who you gave it to energetically may not be willing to give it back. It's there. It's what's important in their life, the memory of you, or holding on to it. So there's that can happen in this exchange of energy. This is a form of energy exchange, right? Also, you may not be ready to get a piece back from somebody else, because even though that person may or may not be even present in your life, it's still a connection, right? To them.
Giving it back is a connection, isn't it? It's an exchange.
Yes, because you're probably giving them back a piece too. That happened to me with an experience I had with my college love. We both had shattered each other's hearts, and
was there a successful exchange, Robin?
Yes,
please tell me
there was awesome. Oh yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was almost like that person, that it was so profound. That person who I was then and that person that he was then were kind of with the other being, with not with themselves. They were not part of their full embodied soul energy. And so we had to exchange. I had to give him back his college person part, and he had to give me back my college person part, so that we could both become whole.
In the exchange of seeing him again, did he ignite your heart, or was you like, oh God, I'm glad I left?
Well, I was very confused. I was confused at that time. I didn't know what Spirit's intention was.
Right.
Like, there was a naivety to me that thought, oh, look, second chances. But that was not what it was. He was exactly the same way he was before. And and I had surpassed who I was then. And so spiritually, and it just didn't work. It was, the purpose was to exchange that piece of our heart and our soul back to each other.
When you was going through this very long period of addiction, what was the moment that just changed it kind of all, and how did you then navigate it from that moment onwards? What was the moment where you said, I'm just not going to do this anymore?
Yeah, so thank you for saying that, because that's what you have to say. So the 4 steps in Feast and Famine, Healing Addiction with Grace, that Sophia said to me is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is an option. And I said, oh, Buddha said that. And she said, yeah, you don't think I said that to Buddha? So pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. The third one is, so suffering is an option. I'm just going to stop there. Pain is inevitable, right? We're human beings. We have other people in our lives. The world could be going to hell in a handbasket. We don't feel well. There are all kinds of reasons why pain is inevitable, right? Suffering is an option. You don't have to suffer just because you're in pain. That's a choice point. And you've met people like that. You've met people that are in serious pain, but they're not suffering. And then you've met people that you're like, why is that person suffering? Right? Like, life looks.
You can apply that to so many situations and scenarios, can't you? Even the fact, even when you said it, it resonated with me, because you can very much choose to live life through, a positive lens or a negative lens. And you see some people where it just goes from one, situation of doom to another situation of doom, because they're kind of attracting that constantly in their life, and in the way they're sort of sitting in their movie director seat, being the director of their own reality. And it's just, but do you know what? Even the act of suffering, the fact that we can choose to suffer, some people are actually suffering every moment of their lives in a part of the world. Even the fact that we are choosing to suffer, it's bonkers sometimes what we're doing to us.
Well, it is. It's like, what's wrong with us, right? When we see what their life is really like. So just to continue on this so pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. The third thing Sophia said is that surrender is required. And that's what made me think of that when you said you have to surrender. You have to just say, I'm not doing anymore. So surrender is not wishful thinking. Let's be really clear. It's not, geez, I wish I wouldn't take another drink. Like, not wishful thinking. Surrender is those moments in time when you say, I am not doing that anymore, or I will not allow you to do that to me anymore, or whatever it is. When your whole, it's like a physical reaction, right? I am done, right? That's true surrender. So surrender is required. And the last one I love, she said, grace must be allowed. And so when you're in true surrender, what you're going to begin to see is the grace that is around you 24 hours a day. Like, grace is around all of us 24 hours a day. We just don't see it. We're not paying attention because we're too busy suffering. And so once we decide not to suffer, all of a sudden, grace is there. Now, it could be a hawk flies by you, or it could be you get a message from your parents who are in the spiritual realm, or you're listening to this podcast. You're like, well, I'll listen to Jason, and here's Robin, and she's telling me this, right? It comes in so many different ways. And so pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. Surrender is required, and grace must be allowed. And the reason why she said must be allowed is because sometimes we don't think we're good enough for the grace. Because we've been suffering our whole lives, so we don't have the highest self-esteem. But she's asking everyone to get out of their own way and allow the help to arrive so that you can heal your inner world and then do what you need to do in the outer world, but make sure that there's a frequency of harmony and coherence between the two of them so that you're living a life that's in alignment.
Alignment is a very important word, isn't it?
It sure is.
And when you're in true alignment, you're really in abundance mode. That's when you're in manifest mode as well. And right. You touched on, something earlier on, which is I've only really I've recently even was thinking about manifesting, and I was looking at the times in my life when I've really manifested, and I've done crazy things in my life. Someone once called me a master of manifesting, but the funny thing is, Robin, I've almost lost it as quickly as I've got it at times, because I've also, when I've started looking back at my own life, and I thought, at that point, I got what I got, but then I started to worry about losing it. And the worrying about losing it made me lose it because I wasn't in alignment. And you mentioned earlier about wishful thinking. And a lot of the time when we're trying to manifest, even our actions aren't even aligned. It's like, okay, I say I'm going to go get a new job. I'm going to manifest my dream job, Robin, and I'm going to do it immediately. But then I don't even write a CV, It's never going to happen, is
yes,
it?
You didn't take action. If you read the book The Secret or watched the movie, whatever you did, that was, it's an older thing. They didn't tell you to take any action, but taking
it was a book of wishful thinking.
It was a book of wishful thinking, and you have to think, feel, believe, know, and act in order to manifest something. And so it's very interesting too. I've been studying some other work now around manifesting in this newer energy that we have. And a friend of mine, Colleen Morgan, has a theory called the art of mattering. And what she says is that if we really know what truly matters to us, then we can create that into matter. And so to know what really matters to you, again, a very physical thing. When something matters to you, it's like your whole body feels it. Like, it really matters to me that I get a new job. So what action steps do I have to take to attract, to set up capacity inside of myself in order for the job to become into my space where I can see it and take action to get it, right? So it's not about these spiritual manifesting angels that are going to come around and sprinkle us with whatever it is that we really want. It's a matter of first knowing what matters to you so that you can get rid of the things that are blocking you from having enough capacity to be able to then create it into matter in however that's going to work. It's kind of simple, right?
Yeah, you say it, but I remember the times I've even done it, it would be when I had that sense of purpose. I knew I had to do that thing. And you know it because you start imagining it and then you start placing your emotions behind that.
But what about, do you feel it in your bones? Like those things that you really wanted and the things that you manifested were different than the things that were, okay, that would be nice. But these were things, right, that really mattered to you.
They do matter. Yes, they did matter, Robin.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's the difference. Now, the key too is that a lot of stuff we say doesn't matter to us, really. Right. And yet
we would like it. We would like it to come into our orbit.
Yeah. And so you may create that into matter as well. So be careful what you say matters to you. But I know the difference between something that really matters to me and something I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Right. Like I know the difference because I can feel it. It's like I become empowered just thinking about it. Physically.
Even the way you just said that, you started sitting differently, Robin. You suddenly rose up. Yes.
Right. Yes. And that's when you know that something is truly yours. And that's when you need to create capacity by moving things out of your life that are disrupting you from doing that so that you can bring more things into your life that help you create that thing that really matters into matter. And so this is a new way of looking at manifesting instead of the codependent relationship we had with spirit. Oh, I got that because spirit said I deserved it. I didn't get that because spirit said it's not time for you. Right? Like it's like this whole codependent thing with spirit, and they're like, we don't have anything to do with it. It's all you, right? And so
interesting.
So this mattering, taking it and knowing what really matters and making capacity is all you. You didn't hear me once say, and then the universe will bring it to me. Right? How many times have you said that? If I just think positively, the universe will bring it to me.
Oh God, I actually spent about 5 years. I used to do the 100 steps of gratitude in the morning, thinking that was all I needed to do. It's okay, Robin. I'm going to manifest my new job because I've said thank you for it in advance 100 times on the way into work.
Well, listen, Jason, I taught the law of attraction for 14 years.
Did you?
So I was
before you knew what it really was. Now,
before I realized that I was in this codependent relationship with spirit, that no, it's up to me. It's up to me. Spirit's cheering me on, but it's saying to me, "You do you." You do you.
I do understand now when I was doing it before, I do even understand because in the times I've manifested big, my biggest thing today is my company. Oh my God, I very much had a sense of purpose because I needed it to work because my life savings had gone into it. So, there was oversleeping in the mornings, I was visioning, breathing, everything at that time.
That's right. And so you were, it mattered. And
it very much mattered.
You were building capacity every day, capacity to live and breathe and work it every single day. And there you have it. And now it's there. And you're like, wow, when did that happen? Right?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, so you mentioned I can't remember which book it was in the order, but one of them, Jesus came through.
Yes, twice.
How did you... because one of the things we get on our journey as mediums is, is it me or is it spirit? How did you, was there a lot of, in your mind of questioning this, that you really had Jesus there?
Well,
was you doubting yourself? How, I'm just wondering.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I didn't need to really doubt myself because everybody else was doubting me. Like everyone, they were doing it for me. But what happened was he came in as Yeshua, which is from the Old Testament. That was his original Hebrew name because he was Hebrew before he was Christian.
And did you know that was his name before?
No. In fact, one of my friends who is a medium and a channel kept saying to me, Yeshua wants to talk to you. And I'd be like, okay, well, have him call me. And she's like, do you have any idea who I'm talking about? I'm like, I have no idea. None. I didn't have a relationship with him. I didn't know who he was. And then when she told me, I'm like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous.
He was trying to dial you up then.
Yeah. And I was like, why would he want to talk to me? And then that was because he wanted me to write this book. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I go, why do you want me to do this? And he said, because you have, which was lovely. He said, you have one of the biggest hearts on the planet. And he said, I need you to write this book for me. And it was not easy. It was not easy. And what was so interesting, Jason, is he gave me these 12 steps to becoming your Messiah within. And from the time he was the being of light that was standing on the deck with me. And from that moment on, he had me live the first 10 steps as my spiritual fast track. And so when he gave me them, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And then I get to 11 and 12. I hadn't lived them yet. So I didn't know when I would be living them. And so that was a fun period because I would be like, oh, is this it? Is this number 11? I'm like, no, because it doesn't have the same spiritual 2x4 over the head that 1 through 10 had. And so I knew when 11 happened and I knew when 12 happened. And then I put the book out, but then I couldn't hold the energy of these teachings. And that's when I went and he came to me and asked me to come and teach with him. And I said, I don't want to leave the planet. He just laughed at me and he said, well, then teach from where you are. And I'm like, he just dissed me. I wonder what I'm doing wrong, right? And so that's when I started looking at what am I not doing? And then that's when I wrote The Divine Keys. But what happened was I wrote it, I gave it to my editor, and she said, I'm really sorry, Robin, but this book sounds like you're whining. And I'm like, I am whining. It was hard, blah, blah, blah. And then I had to put that on the shelf. And then until the next summer, until I was inspired to rewrite it, to take all of me out of it and just get right to the 18 keys for people. And what are those 18 keys? And use my son's photography. And it just is a lovely little book. I don't write big books. My books are not, I don't think they're complicated. I think one of my greatest gifts is to be able to take complicated topics and say them simply.
That is a gift in itself because it's, some of these concepts, you're having to use analogies, and the art is being able to use human language to describe things that are not humanly.
Right. Because don't you think that's the hardest part about spirituality is actually how simple the phrases are. And you're like, that can't be that simple. Or
it can't. Well, no. And
it's not, right?
I've realised that these days, my teachers are all very, very, very simple. I say very simple people. That's not a very nice way to put it. But they make it so simple. But it is simple when we're connecting and whatever we're doing. But it's so I get teachers that get lost in technique, and overtalk the technique. It for me, I don't seem to progress with those teachers anyway.
Yeah. So what if it came down to that we are a divine soul being having a human being experience, and we're here to move beyond the human experience so we can understand what our divine soul wants us to accomplish here. Now, there's nothing easy about that. No way. I 20 years I've been doing that, right? But if that's the real meaning of life, right? What if the meaning of life is to understand what your soul is trying to accomplish here in this incarnation and see if you can get it done by healing yourself, by putting yourself out there, by by really like saying, okay, I don't know why I'm supposed to meet that person. Like sometimes you're going to meet someone, ask to speak to you, and you're like, oh my God, why do they want to talk to me? But then they have a message for you.
Yes.
Soul to soul, right? And you're like, oh, this is why I had to meet this person for lunch. Thank you. Thank you, Robin, for saying yes, right? And going. And so learning to listen to your soul, trust your intuition. Your intuition is your soul talking to you, right? Believe it. When you have an intuitive hit, just do it. In my family, if I say to anyone in my family, intuitively, I feel, they're like, okay, what is it? Let's do it. Right?
People, so, well, I've even noticed since I've been on my mediumship journey, even my mum now, when I've been saying something for a while, she really listens to it as well, because, I've predicted a lot of things happening now when I get those gut feelings. I listen to my intuition in everything now. I don't make any decision in my life that isn't guided by my intuition. If I'm overthinking it, why am I overthinking it? Sometimes I'll play out strategies, of course, but if I'm overthinking something or a decision, then there's normally a reason for that, isn't there? Because I'm not.
It is. When my children were teenagers and they were trying to make big life decisions, right? Like what college to go to or whatever it is, I would always have them do like an Excel sheet with pros and cons and weighing the pros and cons. And so they would do this whole logical thing, and they would everything would be weighted, and then they'd have a decision. And then I would always say to them, they always tease me now, I would always say to them, but what does your heart say? And they'd be like, what does my heart say? My heart is in agreement with this, or my heart says the other one. And I'd be like, then I would choose the other one. and still, even to this day.
It's good, great advice. It's very good advice.
Right, but because I don't think they would have been okay without doing the human version of the decision making.
No, because they would have gone, because I've done this in my life. I remember when I was meant to go onto a college course, I wanted to do drama in my heart, but I thought, adult people, sensible people would say to me, no, this is not a career. So then I would not follow my heart. And whenever we don't follow our heart, we make a bad decision. You've got to be careful, though. Don't take that, dear listener, by wearing your heart on your sleeve and making the wrong decision.
Yes.
There's one thing about giving your heart away, and there's another thing about making heart-led decisions. Because you can sometimes make bad decisions based from the heart. Sometimes.
And if you do the human, analytical, mind-based, brain-based work, it's almost like it's a foundation for you to say, is that as important to me as following my own gut, my own intuition? And it's in my corporate life. I worked for the senior leadership team of a Fortune 200 company. And I always was amazed by these people that I work for, because I would bring them one spreadsheet, one sheet of paper with what I had to talk to them about. I could have files and files in another room, but I could only go with one piece of paper. And they'd look at the paper, they'd read it, and then inevitably they would say to me, Jason, my gut says we should do it this way. My gut. And what is your gut? Your intuition, right? It's just a more masculine way of saying intuition. And what is synchronicity? I mean, I watch that all the time, right? Synchronicity is intuition fueled by spirit, right? It's like the universe, like having fun, right?
It is. And I've had some recently that have really made me laugh, because the universe does have a sense of humor.
Oh, yes. I laugh all the time because I'm always paying attention, and I'm just always like laughing at different things that happen, or just in awe all the time. I really never liked walking. My idea of a winter sport is running from the car into the house. Like, that's it. That's it. So
you struck me as a very active person. I imagine you jogging in winter.
I don't like, but this year, I started walking my dog twice a day, bundling up, and getting out there in the cold because, this weekend is going to be a wind chill of -10. I don't know how much I'll be out there, but it's going to be cold. But I've discovered winter walking, like the beauty of winter. I don't know if I really even ever paid attention to it, but I guess it's what my soul needed this winter, was to begin to appreciate that fourth season, because I love spring. I love summer. I love fall, because we live in New England in the US and the foliage here is incredible. And then I would come into this dread of winter.
It's funny because you're making me think that even now, this year, I normally go away loads. I mean, last year I didn't go away at all because I really just wanted to stay in England to sit out every season because I felt that's where I needed to be in that moment.
Yeah. So maybe we just need, I was in London this year. That was my first time. Or last year, last year. Oh, I had such a wonderful.
Would you visit again?
I would visit again. I actually just ate Indian food the entire time. I went from one Indian restaurant to the next because you guys have some amazing Indian food.
Oh, we do. Well, Robin, we could talk for hours, but I will ask you to, and some of your books are so interesting. I do love the fact that your books are of an ADHD person's manageable size, because I actually find that the only books I can ever read now is books that are not too big, because it doesn't look intimidating from the start.
Well, and when I wrote Messiah Within, I had like an editor, it's not big enough. And then Yeshua came to me and said, we are complete. Right? And
you are done. You are done.
We are complete. I'm like, size in this case, I guess, doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter in some senses, Robin. I'm sure many of the guests, if we did a poll, 50% would say size matters. I'm just being naughty.
But not in books.
Not in books. Well, there'd be some people would say bigger books are better, but we don't care about them. Robin, leave us on a final thought today.
Well, this has been so lovely, and it's been such a nice opportunity for me to be my authentic self and to really be able to express myself and my path. And I just want to encourage everybody to not be ashamed of their past and not to be intimidated by it, and know that if they have teachings or if they have a path that they need to follow, that they should find to do the brain work to see if it's possible, and then to follow their heart.
Yeah, and you make, even on that point, you make a beautiful point, because you shouldn't be ashamed of your past. If you've been through a really hard time, you should be applauding yourself because you've come out the other side.
Oh, my goodness.
In a place now where you're looking back, with a sense of shame on the past. Oh my God, look at how far you've rose.
Yes, that is so true. So true. And if you do the work, if you heal your suffering, I think that is the key to long-term recovery, is doing your healing work and then looking at your life every day, mind, body, spirit, and emotion, like looking at all four. What are you doing to nurture all four integrated parts of you? And that activity helps you to stay away from the old triggers that you would have had.
Very good way of looking at it, isn't it? Robin,
thank
you so much for coming onto the Soul Sync.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you, everybody. And if you want to read more about harmony, go to harmonywithrobin.com. That's where you'll find me.
Or look in the show notes and just click the link there. Robin, thank you. I really agree about looking at life in terms of mind, body and spirit, because, I've tended to find that, I'll have aspects and times of my life where, I'm really happy with the way I look, aesthetically, but then on the inside, my mind's absolutely all over the place and literally vice versa. And I do try that now, even myself, every single day to make sure that I'm trying to do something to nurture my body, my mind, and, my spirit at the same time. So it was a beautiful conversation, very candid, lovely Robin, and she really spoke from the heart there, and definitely pulled on my heartstrings, I'll tell you that. I'm Jason Paul, you've been here in the Soul Sync. Until next time, lots of love.